2015, we said we had an epic fire season, and then in 2017 we said, 2017. So wow, it's even a more epic fire season, and I could say that again. So I think what we're really starting to see is if this is the new norm, then there's some things that we need to really take a look at. Again, we can't do anything about really the droughts that we're seeing that are out there, the limited snowpack that we're getting, the lack of precipitation. Obviously in Southern Oregon, the number of days over 100. So what are some of those things that we should be thinking about? And education is one of them, getting the message out to homeowners, especially to be doing stuff around your home prior to the summer arriving and prior to the incident coming to your doorstep, but thinking about it, right after the first of the year, what do we need to do a better job? The other is, is just making sure that we're adequately funded for this. When I left the Department of Forestry and I came over to the State Fire Marshal's office back in 2009, I realized that we did not have a budget for these types of responses. We don't have a big budget to start with, so we did set aside about $500,000. We're now at about $700,000 in that budget. But for the biennium, we spent $30 million on all of these responses. And it's just a pass-through. That's not monies that goes to the State Fire Marshal's office. That is passed through that then goes to those fire departments that responded. And when you do get a fire department like Silverton, for a good example, they responded multiple times to multiple incidences this year. They have a relatively small budget, so they really rely on the fact that within 90 days from the time they bill us, we have to pay them. So I would like your help, on trying to, we are going to try to put a policy option package through to set aside, not in our budget, but to set aside with the E-Board, so that would allow us then to be able to make those payments in a timely manner without impacting the rest of the things that our office does.
So thank you very much for your presentation. I've been getting notes and from follow-up conversations with some others. So here's what I'd like to do. Not for December, but for early in the next session. I'm going to ask our committee what's it called now? Not administrator. Our committee analyst. Thank you. I was going to say administrator, but committee analyst, to work with the three of you and others in the room that want to help on really three issues. One is tracking down a 5 or 6 year detailed analysis of human-caused fires and what are the policies in place, and policies in terms of prevention, policies in terms of punishment, identification, and I'm going to assume here that is sometimes dependent upon the state police's availability to actually investigate. So that would probably be an area that we want to look at as well, because at some point it's no longer just a case of arson, it's actually a case of attacking the state because it starts mayhem. The other two things, one has to do with looking at rural area fire protection. Again, I know no one necessarily likes to hear the name CAL FIRE, but I know it as a model where there are areas where it is in the state's interest to actually have, if not state, then rural fire protection district personnel waiting to be able to serve, especially in places that have low population but can affect the economy, can affect the larger ecosystem. The other piece has to do with, for ODF, because again, structures aren't necessarily your big thing, and there are areas that are probably really hard to get to. What type of supplemental staffing do you need for either prevention or earlier massing for putting out fires that need to be put out? I know, again, it's not the legislature's job to try to tell an agency to come up with what you need, but we are very interested in making sure that given what I think we can anticipate to be a very robust fire season for at least the next 10 or so years, it would be better to be proactive and have an idea of what we can throw at things before they get out of hand. Because at some point, if these things keep growing in the number of acres that are affected, Oregon may ask for help from a state and they won't perhaps be able to help us because they're fighting their own. So I'd like to have that as kind of a forward discussion. All right?
The other thing that popped, thank you. The other thing that popped in my head in conversations with people who I know who do, air suppression, wildland firefighting, comments from constituents or whatever is, I'd also like us to sort of understand, especially as we call these conflagrations, what the protocols are. Like, I've never seen that, but I feel like there's, and I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback, but on a couple of these, like maybe we didn't call that soon enough. And so I really want to have a better understanding of, are we making that decision in a timely enough manner to really reduce size and scope of some of these fires? And that's just feedback I had from people out in the field in different parts, that if we'd just gotten here a little sooner, if we'd been able to move our gear and get here a little quicker, like, when you see 8,000 acres just pop in a day, it's not always wind or whatever driven, but that's some feedback that I've just gotten from people who are out there doing the work.
One of the things that I think could be helpful with that is a clear understanding of jurisdictional control and the idea of, at least what I remember, sometimes the incident commander may not want to give it up and think they can solve it, and there's sometimes time is needed for political decisions to be made to whether you're going to go around them or not, and I know that everybody's sensitive to those kinds of things. So if you could include in that discussion some of the dynamics related to local fire protection districts, federal requirements, that line that people sometimes, because of jurisdictional requirements, that context would be helpful for that.
Yeah, more than happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, panel. Really appreciate it. And